I'm Andrew Willett for A Pro Basketball Show. Follow and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, as well as following on social media at APBShow on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to follow me as well at VACWillett22. Thank you so much for tuning in, and without further ado, hello and welcome to A Pro Basketball Show. We are joined now by Nick Andres, a freelance writer and the co-host of MNC Hoops, and today we are going to talk about our All-Star squads, who each of us had in our All-Star ballots, both starters who I've already went through. We'll hear about Nits here soon, as well as our reserves. Before we go in, we picked some teams. We're gonna have some fun today. Just going through some All-Star stuff because that's all coming so very soon. But Nit, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. This is my third time back on the show, man. So third time's a charm, man. The season has been phenomenal, at least. It's crazy because we were just talking earlier. Like I didn't realize All Star Weekend was literally next weekend, or the All Star Game is at least next Saturday. So it's crazy how time flies. But I'm doing great, man. Happy to be back.
I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, Nick, one of my favorite guests to have on, and I think you just know hoops. So as we kind of get into this WNBA season, like it's been a long time, but All Star Weekend coming here soon in Las Vegas, who we're going to talk about a lot today. And we've already heard who's all going to be in the All Star game. What we have yet to hear, and it's coming very soon, is who will be playing on which team. We know the captains, Team Breanna Stewart and Team Asia Wilson. But we're going to get into our teams, who we think we're going to pick, and a whole lot more. But starting things out, the All-Star starters, we'll start with the guards because that began the starters with Jackie Young, Jewel Lloyd, Arike Egumbawale, and Chelsea Gray. And Nate, I'm going to ask you first. Who were your four guards to start the All-Star game?
So it's funny. So I was spot on with Jewel Lloyd, Arike, and Jackie Young, but I did not have Chelsea. I actually had Ryan Howard as a starter, which we'll get into later because she ended up getting snubbed as well. But I'm actually happy for Chelsea Gray. She was a snub last year, and you could tell last year, it really gave her a chip on the shoulder because she ended up having a phenomenal postseason, which ended up resulting in a championship for the Las Vegas Aces. So kudos to these players. Jewel Lloyd, I want to say she's the leading scorer currently in the W, so she's been playing phenomenally despite the struggles that Seattle has been going through. Same thing with Arike as well, continuing to just score at a high level. But Jackie's probably the surprising one because I don't think many people expected her to have such a terrific season that she is having.
Coming into the year,
when I was looking at coming into the year, yes, which is crazy because I was looking at her numbers this year and last year, and they're not really too far apart, but you can tell the impact has just been just different. Her shot making is incredible. I love seeing her, come off a catch and shoots. I love seeing her being able to attack the basket. So, this is definitely deserving for Jackie Young. She's been playing phenomenally, and it's part of the reason why the Aces are the best team in the WNBA.
So you got to sell me right now on Ryan Howard as an All-Star starter.
Well, I mean, it's a little biased. I can definitely say that Ryan Howard is actually one of my personal favorites in the WNBA. To me, I mean, it's one thing for her to not be a starter, but for her to not be on an All-Star, like be an All-Star period, was just kind of crazy to me. I actually have her numbers right in front of me, averaging around 18 a game, 4 rebounds, shooting numbers are not coming up, but I mean, you basically get the picture. I know that Atlanta has still been trying to find themselves as a unit, especially with Tanisha right there. It's the first year for Alicia Gray, which she's an All-Star. Kudos to her. Same thing with Cheyenne Parker, but to me, Ryan has been the anchor of that team, and she sets the tone on both ends of the floor especially with the shot making on offense. So I felt like she was going to be kind of a fan favorite to get in, but obviously, I mean, look, I mean, you can go either way. I mean, I think Jackie's been deserving. I think Chelsea definitely has been deserving as an All-Star starter. But at least for me, like I said, it's probably me being biased, but I definitely had Ryan there just because of her impact for Atlanta this year.
And I don't think you're alone there. I think a lot of WNBA fans love what Ryan Howard brings to the table. And so you mentioned right around 18 points per game for Ryan, and that's just, I mean, it shows how big of a performance that she had in that 43-point outburst because she was at 16.6 prior to the All-Star, I think, reserves being announced, or at least the
Oh, that's
cutoff for
dope.
that. So she really bumped that up with that 40, the second most points in Atlanta Dream history, and we'll talk about her a little bit more later once we get to some of my reserves. But yeah,
Let me just say this real quick about the game. Like that may be one of, I mean, it may not be the greatest W game of all time or like the greatest W performance by a player, but to me, like that's one of my probably personal top five. You know, especially with that performance coming right after the reserves were announced and her having that chip on her shoulder. She had 25 in the first half. Like that was just incredible. She was just shooting the lights out, man. So it's like kudos to Ryan Howard. Like I said, she's one of my personal favorites in the W, and that performance there, like that probably has to be one of my favorites since I started really watching the WNBA.
well, she was on a mission after being snubbed from the All Star game, and oh my gosh, I, her potential's through the roof. I mean, some of the things for me was kind of that shooting percentage. As we'll just get into it right now, she was not on my All Star ballot, and I'll have to defend that later
Oh
with who I did.
man,
I know. Nit, like, I think if I pull this up correctly, at the time, shooting percentages was 38% from the field, 36% from three, there was 76 from the line, and she was the one my last cut, so she was right there for me with the 16, 4.8, and nearly 3 assists per game. But yeah, that was one that after that 43-point game, you think about regretting it, but I stuck with what I had at the time of the announcement.
I mean, honestly, it's understandable. I mean, there's a lot of great players, and even when I was doing my list, there was a lot of players that I realized that I cut off. I was like, man, like this player is deserving of really being on the team, but who am I going to replace? So there's been a lot of great individual performances, like individual seasons from a lot of players in the W this year. So I can understand why it's hard for like a lot of players to like be in the list and then not be able to make the list.
So you had Ryan Howard with the other three, Arite Gumbawale, Jackie Young, and Jewel Lloyd. I think Jewel Lloyd, Jackie Young, Arite, probably they speak for themselves. I also had those three. And then I went chalk on those four guards. I had Chelsea Gray. I thought, like, every time I watch Las Vegas, I just, like, she stands out to me as, like she's out there with Asia Wilson and Jackie
I mean, the
Young.
passing is incredible.
She just stands out to me as like maybe the best player on that team, and that says a lot for the talent that is on that Aces roster. But that's who I had as the four guards. I went differently with my six front court players, and because the six that were announced: Asia Wilson, Bree Stewart, Brittany Griner, Satu Sabali, Aaliyah Boston, and Neta Dumake. And for me, it was really tough because I think all six of those were deserving All Stars, very deserving starters as well.
Definitely.
I wanted to get that out there. But for me, I stuck with those top three. I had Asia Wilson, Bree Stewart, Brittany Griner in the starting lineup. But then I had Alyssa Thomas, I thought was a no doubt starter, in my opinion. Yep.
Facts.
I had Neta as well, so there's five. And it's just so tough because there are so many talented front court players in this league right now. But again, might be a little biased for me. I covered Washington last year with Monumental Sports Entertainment, but I had Elena Deladon as my final All-Star. All-Star starter,
I
that
mean,
is.
you can't go wrong with EDD. Can't go wrong with it.
Nick, who'd you pull out in your starting lineup? How close were you to who
Oh
actually
man,
became one?
so I was spot on with Asia, Brianna Stewart, and Brittany Grant. I feel like that was kind of
Yeah.
I feel like that was definitely kind of the easy answer. I mean,
Neta?
I know that I did. What's crazy? I did not have NECA. I didn't
Ooh.
have NECA. I actually shared my lineup with a lot of people where they weren't happy with that because a few of my friends are Sparks fans, so they weren't happy about it. And look, I'm not taking nothing away from NECA. I think she's having a phenomenal season, probably one of her best seasons in probably a while. Even in that Dallas game, they played Dallas a few weeks ago. She had 27 and I think 12 or something like that. And it was like, yo, NECA is like on a different level right now, really being really being the leading factor in the Sparks' success this year. But besides those three, I had this might be me being biased again, but I had Aaliyah Boston. I think Aaliyah has been phenomenal this year as a rookie.
Oh
I
my
feel like she's
gosh.
been really the leading factor in why the Fever are like really mentioned as like a very improved team. I have Alyssa Thomas. I feel like it was crazy. I feel like it was crazy to not have her in the starting line,
Thank
especially with the
you.
season that she's had.
My MVP
And
so far
then
is Alyssa
same thing,
Thomas.
same here, man. That's my MVP as well. But then I also had Kalia Copper. I know a lot of people may have not had her, but to me it was like I felt like when the front court had a lot of bigs, so like I wanted to kind of like have that wing, that small forward, and I feel like Kalia kind of fit in that spot. So that's why I put Kalia in there. And plus I feel like she's having a really good year as well.
She is having a fantastic season. I'd say like she just kind of got screwed over being in that front court group. Her chances were not great because of all of the talented bigs, and she very well could probably pass for a guard. I'd say very similar
You
player
could.
to like a Jackie Young. But
Not a bad comparison.
so I mean, like when we were talking about Jackie just a second ago, I feel like a lot of her improvement can be attributed to Candace Parker coming in. Just if you look at what Candace
Honestly,
Parker,
that entire team is really contributed to Candace Park because even I said this, and I don't know if people agree. I know we're kind of going off topic, but I know that Asia Wilson, coming off of the MVP year, the Defensive Player of the Year, and then of course winning a championship. But for some reason, I don't know why, I feel like Asia this year has been better than what she has ever been. And I don't know if people may view it the same way, but I just feel like offensively she's more polished, being able to score in the mid range, being able to get to the basket. And I was thinking like, man, like what is the reason? Is it possibly because she's playing next to Candace Parker? Is Candace Parker really taking a lot of that pressure off of her? That might possibly be it though.
that
So
might help.
you can honestly say Candace, yeah, I'm saying you could possibly make that Candace impact to pretty much to everyone on the team.
Yeah, I mean, Asia's so good. It's kind of the
She's
post
really good.
work is filthy. You saw Becky Hammond was shouting out her passing being a little bit improved this season.
Definitely.
I what it's pointed to is the 3-point shot is not nearly as good as it was in kind of its debut season last year. 15% from three, but
Yeah, I feel like she's not really taking a lot of them either. Like, I think that's something that I would love to see more is her kind of stepping out there a little bit more because she did take a lot. I can't remember the exact stats, but I know she took more than like at least three, like more than at least 2 or 3 attempts last year, and I think she's only averaging like half an attempt this year.
hmm,
So I do want to see her possibly step out this year and make more threes, especially because because she was like it was a big impact last year, especially with her floor spacing. So if she's able to do that this year or like like as the season progresses, like that'll be big for them.
and it would also be big for her because we talked about her as this incredible player because she is, but like if she was able to develop that 3-point shot, I kind of the world is hers to take over from there. So I mean I think Candace Parker probably helps her just stay where she's comfortable, right in the lane, and go to work because she has been doing that all year long. Um,
Facts.
but yeah, Candace Parker as a spacer, that helps with that. Where even were we at this point? I think we were talking, yeah, the 6 starters. So you had in the front court those same three with BG, Stewie, and Asia. And then you had Talia Topper, Aaliyah Boston, and I'm missing one.
Alyssa Thomas.
Okay, yes. So I mean, we all have aside from Ryan Howard, they're both all stars, or everyone in our starters is all stars for each other. So I think we're in a good place there. Let's get over to the reserves now. And all right,
Let's
Nick,
go.
transitioning right into the All-Star reserves. There were 12 of them. Those 12, Dewana Bonner of the Connecticut Sun, Nafisa Collier over in Minnesota, Talia Topper, one of your starters, Elena Deladon, one of my starters, Alicia Gray, so happy for her as a reserve from Atlanta. You've got Sabrina Ionescu over in New York, Ezzy Madrigal in Seattle, Kelsey Mitchell in Indiana, Cheyenne Parker in Atlanta, Kelsey Plum in Las Vegas, and Alyssa Thomas in Connecticut, as well as Courtney Vandersloot in New York. So you've got New York's backcourt over heading to Vegas for the All-Star game as well. But Nick, we talked about it a little prior to the show, prior to this. But who were some of your surprises in this All-Star reserves unit?
I think the first one you got to talk about is Ezzy Mabagor, which I'm not understanding why it's surprising for me because I've actually been really impressed with what she's been able to bring to the table on both ends of the floor. Biggest anchors for Atlanta throughout the course of the season. Her ability to play in the post, score in the post, and on top of that, being able to be a rim protector as well. So I love what she's been able to bring to the table. She's definitely deserving. Dewana Bonner was actually surprising to me, and I don't know why, especially with how she's been able to really contribute for Connecticut this year. So I'm definitely happy for her. Alicia Gray is another one where coming into her first season in Atlanta, she's been able to really show her full package as an offensive weapon, which I don't think she was able to do the past few years at Dallas. So I'm definitely happy for her as well. Now, I was talking about this too because I actually had Ryan Howard on my All Star list, and unfortunately, she did get snubbed. So, one thing that I will say is if I had to choose somebody to replace her with, and they're probably going to hate me for this, but I would probably swap out Sabrina Ionescu and Adam Ryan. Not trying to take anything away from Sabrina. I'm not a Sabrina hater by any means. I love what she brings to the table. I love her competitive edge, but I do feel like she has had her up and down moments throughout the season, especially against some of the top tier contenders. And I know that Ryan Howard's shooting percentage has not been the highest. I think you mentioned she's shooting about 38% from the floor, so definitely that could definitely show improvement. But I feel like when you talk about the anchor of the Atlanta Dream, like the one that really sets the tone, I think Ryan Howard is that player for them. So with her not making the All Star team, and give all the praise to Alicia Gray and Cheyenne Parker for making it. But when you talk about who is by far the best player on the Atlanta Dream, to me it's Ryan Howard. So overall, I love the reserve list. I think all these players are deserving, but I will say that my personal list was a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get into that right now because it was split up in between three guards, five front court players, and then four of either of those positions. And so for
Right.
me, you mentioned Sabrina and Ryan Howard as two of those. Obviously, Ryan Howard not for you on the edge, but for me, they are both my final cuts from this All Star selection. So we'll have to get in, see where we are differing. But when I kind of get into the guards, my three guards, I had Alicia Gray. I think we're the same there. But I'm big on her season to this point, leading Atlanta in scoring, or was prior to that 43-point masterpiece from Ryan Howard. And then I also had Kelsey Plum, who has been up and down. So I'm 2 for 2 there. And then I had Kelsey Mitchell as well as another guard. I mean, averaging nearly the same amount as Kelsey Plum. I've been a fan of her game. Being in Indiana might help a little bit. Going to watch her play, she's just a firecracker out there. The way that she can go on these little runs where she will just take a quarter all for herself. You have 3 straight possessions where she buries a three. Just a few things like that. And I think it's well deserved after all of the years of having really good seasons. But just being on that Indiana team took her out of the running pretty much for an All-Star spot. So I did have those three were my guards. What say you? As I think we can jump over to the four randoms as well after this.
The four randoms that I had, it's not really too different from this list. I think the one person that I really had was Ryan to make this list, but honestly, besides that, I don't really have an issue with any of the other four that got in. Now, I mean, we both agreed Alyssa Thomas should have been a starter. I think that was pretty much that was the one that should have happened. But Kelsey Mitchell for me, I feel like she's had her ups and downs as well. But I'm honestly not mad at her making the All Star team. Honestly, especially what she's been able to bring to the table offensively. With her ability to score on the perimeter, and on top of that, being able to find driving lanes and attack the basket. So I'm happy for her. Um, honestly, I don't know if many people are really talking about her, but Nafisa Collier's had a really, really great year. I know
Yes.
that Minnesota has not been, like the most exciting team to watch, but Nafisa, practically in her first, I think I want to say this is like probably her first full year back. I know she came like towards late last season coming in. So with her being in her first full year back, she's been able to show everything on the offensive end, whether it's scoring in the post, being able to score in the perimeter. She had that game winner against Seattle last week. Nafisa has been really great this year. I don't know if many people are really talking about it. I think some people on Twitter are talking about it, but I think she deserves a lot more love and a lot more praise. So I'm definitely happy that she got on this list. But overall, I don't think I have much different, as far as my own personal list and like the list that came out. So I'm definitely happy for everybody that made it in, and I'm excited for each and every one of them.
Agreed. I think all very deserving participants. I made short lists for all of these positions. I'll go through my five front court because I had Satu Sabali. I think very deserving starter, but that was one of my reserves.
Oh yeah, definitely, yes.
Same with Aaliyah Boston, who I started EDD and Alyssa Thomas over Aaliyah Boston and Satu Sabali. But I definitely an all-star for me, Aaliyah Boston. Nafisa Collier, I like you just mentioned her, but I also want to give my props. That was one of mine as well. And then Talia Topper, a starter for you, off the bench as a reserve in this game. Cheyenne Parker, I had her as well in this All Star game. Did you?
She's been great.
Yes.
I did actually. She's been great this year.
Well, I think deserves some of those props for the season that she has had. But then, kind of my randoms, I do want to touch on Ezzy that you just mentioned. Do you think it's strange that Seattle gets two, despite their record?
I do think it's a little strange. And I don't want to sound like that person because I am happy for Ezzy. I'm definitely
Absolutely.
glad, because she's improved tremendously since her rookie year. So I'm definitely happy for her. But I will say that though, yeah, considering that Seattle's kind of like on the bottom tier of like teams in the W, like it is kind of surprising that they do have two in there, because actually I think LA has one. I know for a fact LA has one.
Yep.
Um, Connecticut has two. I'm trying to think of other teams. Dallas has two in the All Star game.
Atlanta has two.
I'm trying to think of it.
Chicago has
Atlanta has
one.
two.
Washington has one. And
Chicago does have one.
Talia Topper and
Honestly,
EDD.
you could. I don't know. I mean, Courtney Williams has been good, but I don't know. I don't know. If Courtney's been better than a lot of these players here, or a lot of these guards here.
Yeah, yeah. So when it came down to me and my four randoms, I did have Ezzy on my team. I also had Courtney Vandersloot, who I mentioned to you, leading the league in assists. That's an all-star to me. Um, a little bit of bias is one of my favorite players, and Courtney Vandersloot. Just love the way that she plays and passes the basketball. And then I also had, let's see here, I also had DeWanna Bonner, who I felt really good about being an all star. The one that I didn't have that didn't make the All Star game, Nick, was Natasha Howard.
That's interesting. I was honestly going to ask you about a Washington player, but it wasn't Natasha Howard. I was going to ask you if she never got hurt. Do you think Shakira Austin would be in this list?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Okay,
Because
so
I personally think she would, and I would personally have her. And I love Ezzy, but I would have Shakira over Ezzy on this list.
that's tough for this season. I think Ezzy's being asked to do a little bit more than Shakira has
That's
been.
true.
Um, I think Shakira has just as much capability to do what Ezzy's been doing. I think I would have still gone with Ezzy to this point in the year. But no, I love that shout because I'm a big fan of Shaq Austin over there in DC. Tough injury. By the way, I love the Queen Edgebow trade. This is the first time I've been able to touch on it.
That's big. Now that is definitely big. I think it works for both teams now. I think the Fever, they needed like kind of more of a stretch big
Mm,
to play next to Leah Boston and Alyssa Smith, and I think Amanda Zabi is able of doing that. Not saying that Queen wasn't a great fit with that team, but I think she's a better fit with with Washington, especially with with the production that she's able to bring on the defensive end. So I think she just adds elevation to that team on the defensive end.
See, yeah, it's kind of a head scratcher for me and Queen over. Like I did it for Washington. For Indiana, I just think like Queen Edgebo in her second year, teammate of Melissa Smith in college, and you just move off of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't love that for Indiana.
It's honestly interesting. I mean, you definitely make a valid point, but I think I like I'm not in the front office or anything, or I'm not on the coaching staff, but I feel like I guess maybe they wanted to add something different to play next to Leah because I honestly I don't think that Leah and Queen, as great as Queen was, I don't know if she was going to be able to fit in the lineup next to Leah, and I guess that was probably what they're thinking of.
Hmm.
Adding another big to possibly take more pressure off of her in the lineup. So, I mean, that's just my assumption. I don't know for sure, but that's at least from what I saw.
So now you got me questioning Natasha Howard instead of or Ryan Howard or Sabrina Ionescu in my All-Star reserves. But all right. At this point, we know who is on our personal All-Star teams. We differ a little bit. Where the one I didn't have was Natasha Howard. The one that you had that wasn't on there was Ryan Howard, and I believe a couple of more. Kelsey Mitchell, Courtney Vandersloot. Anyone else?
Though I was happy for those. I think it was surprising to see Sloot in there, but I'm not mad at it. I mean, it's like you mentioned, she's leading the W in assists, so when you're doing that, and she's been able to display everything on as far as distributing the basketball and passing, so it didn't surprise me one bit.
Sure. That's fair. And so now we're gonna get into drafting our teams, and I'll take over for Team Stewart. We got Nick over here taking over for Team Wilson. And we'll go into this because the draft is on Saturday, July 8th at 1 p.m. And
Nice.
as reserves were announced a week ago. And it's the pool starts with starters, and then it goes right into reserves. I don't believe it matters off of position, if I am correct on that. But we will just get into drafting our starters. And Nick, how do you want to do this? Are we drafting for the most fun team out here? Are we drafting for the team that would win in a competitive game, or are we drafting for the team
I'm
who would
trying
win
to
an
win,
All-Star
man.
game? We're trying to
I'm
win.
trying to win, man.
I love it. All right. Team Wilson, I'm gonna let you go ahead and draft first out of the starters pool. Nick, who do you like out of the starters?
Oh man, I guess I gotta keep it. I gotta keep things in home, man. I'm gonna go with Chelsea Gray as my starting point guard. I think the combination of the chemistry that they both have on the floor together. I mean, you definitely gotta have it for All Star game. And on top of that, Chelsea's a competitor, and plus, I mean, you gotta like the flashy passes that she's able to bring. The behind the backs, the skip passes. You gotta have that. You gotta add some flavor to the All Star game. So I gotta have Chelsea as my starting point guard.
I respect that. I mean, Chelsea, arguably, I think really an argument could be made as one of the best players in the WNBA, and clearly as an All-Star starter is up there. I think like has an argument for the best player in the WNBA. I'm gonna go ahead and draft Brittany Griner as my first pick.
Okay.
I'm gonna pair Bree Stewart and BG down low, um,
Okay.
and
Not
we'll
bad at all. Not bad at all.
swing that back to you.
All right. I guess this is another homer. Not necessarily on the same team, but they went to the same college in South Carolina. I'm gonna get Aaliyah Boston to be the center for the team.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I did see that pairing being pretty darn good. that would.
That'd be pretty good. Now I will admit, I think the Fever and Murky played each other twice, if I'm not mistaken, and I will say Aaliyah has had her struggles against Brittany Griner, so that may be something to look out for. But I'm still going to take the rookie. I'm going to take the rookie.
That's fair. And I'm gonna jump in here and take a guard before you might get the scariest backcourt back there. But I'm gonna take Jewel Lloyd as my
Man,
first
took a
guard
run.
taken off the
Good
board.
boy.
I'm gonna pair
Good run. Took a
Jewel
run.
and Bree Stewart back together with BG down low.
Okay, Seattle reunion. The Seattle reunion. I like it. You know what? Since you're going Jewel, I guess I gotta go with this one. It kind of hurts me too because I wanted to pick Jackie, but I'm gonna pick Enrique in this one. I'm gonna pick her.
All
I
right.
feel like you have to get her.
Yeah. Okay. So I was really in between. After you took Chelsea, I was between Jewel and Arite. I'll take Jewel, and then I'm gonna run with this and take Jackie, since you left her there.
Okay, and Jackie. Okay.
But Jackie and Jewel with Bree Stewart and BG, I'm liking how I'm feeling so far in my starting lineup.
It's pretty good. Pretty nice. So for my last pick to swing everything out, I'm gonna go with Satu Sabali, man. I gotta have the versatility, the shooting, the
Yes,
rebounding, the ability to attack the basket. Oh yeah, I gotta go Satu, man. Satu's been on a tear this year for Dallas this year.
I definitely think you had to go with that move. I mean, obviously Neta is not the worst player out of this group, having an
Right.
incredible season. But that'll round out my lineup. But I think you had to go with Satu there, to
I
kind
had to go
of
to Satu.
fit around Asia and Aaliyah Boston down low. Okay. So I'm going
I
with.
think it worked perfectly.
It worked out pretty well for you, I think. I go with Jewel. I go with Jackie in my backcourt. I'm putting Bree Stewart. I'm sliding her up to the 3. Nets at the 4 and BG at the 5. You'd have those 3 bigs who can space it out, Bree especially. And then down low, it might get a little crowded, but I'm going to rock with Jewel Lloyd, running a lot of pick and roll, though.
Jewel's one of the best shot makers and creators in the W. So I mean, you got a good one there.
All right.
That's gonna be a fun matchup again, man. Enrique against Jewel. That'll be a fun matchup once again. I mean, we got it earlier in the year,
That's a good
so why not
point.
get it again?
So, yeah, you're rocking with Chelsea Dre, Arike Adumbawale, excuse me, Satu Sabali, and at the 3, I believe. And then Asia at the
Yeah,
4
Satu's at the 3.
with
Ages at the 4. Lee at the 5.
I like that. That's hey, you have the versatility. I'm a big Satu Sabali fan. Have been since I really started getting into the league a whole lot, a few years back. But the versatility has been awesome, and I mean she had one of those performances too, to get out the dates since the All-Star starters were out. I think she had 27 and 15 the other day,
I
against
think she did.
Washington.
Yeah,
That
I'll have to go back. Yeah.
silly, absurd out there. But now we get into our reserves, and we each get 6 players here. And so I'm curious to see where you're going, Nick, with that first pick, out of this reserve group, because there are a lot of good options over here.
Man, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna be a fan here and not a GM. I'm gonna go with Alicia Gray because I'm very happy for her. This is her first All Star game, and I'm excited to see what she's gonna be able to bring to the table.
Hey, and I think that's probably a good fit too. You worry
Really good fit.
with that.
Another South Carolina.
There you go. There you go. But no, you worry about maybe a little busy down low with all the bids in that starting lineup. I think Alicia Gray is a great one to pitch off the top. And that's going to make it really tough for my team with Neta and Bree and BG. I feel like I need to go with another guard here. And so I think All-Star game or not, I'm going to pick the former MVP. And I'm of the All-Star game. I'm going to say Kelsey Plum is my 6th
Ooh, that's a
player off
good
the
one.
bench. Yeah, I'm going there.
That's a really good one. Really good one there. So this one, I'm gonna go with a big, but I also need some floor spacing. So I'm as for right now, you might pick the 2 time or a 2 time MVP on the next move, but I'm gonna go with Nafisa Collier from
All
Minnesota.
right,
I love what she's been doing this year, and I honestly, I mean, you could possibly put her in a lineup next to Asia, next to Aaliyah, and I feel like she's gonna be really good there.
that was honestly the one that I was thinking about going with instead of going and getting another guard there. I think I'm gonna like what Kelsey Plum does to your defense. Just having to really nearly trap her on the ball. As we're gonna get 2 out on the ball and then be able to work a little bit more down low, and then also her work as a spacer. But Nafisa, like the season she's having, like the on-ball reps have looked really good. The stats are nuts.
Definitely,
That's
it's incredible.
that's a solid pick right there. And you're right. I am gonna have to go with the two-time MVP here as I look at the list. I'm going to pick Elena Deladon as my next bid off the bench. Just, I believe is going to provide some more of that spacing for me. And I don't want you to get EDD because, especially with the bids you already have, an EDD and Asia Wilson pairing, oh my God.
That will be, it'll be over. It'll be over, man. Oh, man, with my next pick, I wanted to go with a big on this one, but I want to go Dewana. I need some outside scoring, on the wing position, and I think, she does that, probably at least one of the best players to do it on this list, so I'm going to go Dewana.
Man, Nick is doing team versatility over there. I love the pick.
Man.
Yeah, it's a great spacer for you. I mean, had to do it in Connecticut for some time, and this season kind of having a breakout year under Stephanie White. Oh, that's tough, but it leaves me Alyssa Thomas to rotate, the other member of the Connecticut Sun.
Oh man!
And
if you didn't pick her, I was gonna pick her next.
Ooh. It would have been nasty if you would have gone and picked Alyssa Thomas with the group you've got going. So that's why I'm taking Alyssa Thomas. I feel like I'm playing defense over here, trying to stop you from getting all the good players, worrying less about my team. But yeah, I'll go with Alyssa Thomas off the bench.
Not bad. What do I want next?
Don't have a lot of options to choose from.
Yeah, I'll go with Cheyenne Parker. I need a post player down low. I need somebody who's going to be able to bring that tenacity defensively. So yeah, I'm going to go with Cheyenne. I love what she's been doing this year for Atlanta.
Heck yes, you are, because that means I'm going to take Talia Topper out here as my next pick off the bench. So my bench is looking like Talia Topper, Elena Deladon, Kelsey Plum, and Alyssa Thomas off the bench.
I mean, that's a good one. That is a good one.
I'm shocked you didn't go with Talia Topper as your starter.
I could have, but nah. I'm gonna leave it as it is. I could have done that. So for my next pick, why not get another phenomenal passer on this team? I'm gonna go with Courtney Vandersloot.
Yep.
Go with her.
Okay.
Go with her.
Don't steal Sloot. I got a new jersey this year. That's Courtney Vandersloot 22, and it is for the Chicago Sky, Nick. So.
OG now. It's an OG now.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, man, and now she's gone. But no, right. I was pretty happy with that to pick that up. But okay, so the four you've got off the bench: DeWanna Bonner, Nafisa Collier, Alicia Gray, Courtney Vandersloot, and actually that was your fifth, was it not? To go along with Cheyenne Parker.
Yeah, I got DeWanna, I got Nafisa, I got Alicia, and yeah, I have Cheyenne partner, Cheyenne as well, and then Courtney Vandersloot. So yeah, I got five.
Okay, and so I like where I'm at with my my bids and my starting lineup, and I've got two power forwards in EDD and Bree Stewart now. It's kind of now determining if I want a few more guards or if I want to get a little more bid depth, and I think I'll go with the guards. Oh man, that is tough. I'm gonna stick with. I'm gonna go with Ezzy Madrigal as my next pick.
It's a good pick, really good pick.
I want a little more of that defensive versatility off my bench. That's who I'll start.
Okay. So I think we just about picked everybody. So I guess that'll leave me with
Chelsea Mitchell and Sabrina Ionescu.
Chelsea Mitchell and Sabrina.
I got a win-win here.
I'll go. Yeah. I'll probably go with Sabrina on this one. I'll go with Sabrina.
You don't want to get flagged down for the hate after earlier.
Nah, I mean, like I said, I like Sabrina. I'm a fan of Sabrina.
I'm just saying, if we're going to touch on that New York-Las Vegas game, the first one of the year, and boy, was it kind of a stinker. But the Aces just destroyed the Liberty. And from, the very start, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get into that.
What were your takeaways from that? Because, like I was about to mention, from the very start, it was let's find where Sabrina Ionescu is, let's find where Courtney Vandersloot is, and let's just break her down and go right to the basket. And it was pretty easy.
Oh man, so my takeaway from that game is like whenever we have this debate about who is who is the better team between the Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces, to me it's the Aces, and it's not close. And I don't mean that in any disrespect to New York. I think New York is a really good team. I think they're really finding themselves as a unit, which is really really good. But like I mean, you got to look at Vegas. You got to look at the situation in Vegas. They basically kept their core together and added like one of the best options you could possibly add in Candace Parker. It's like it's like we mentioned earlier in the show. I feel like she's making everyone better, and it's like she's not even really assertive scoring the basketball, but it's everything. It's her passing, it's her screening, it's being able to lead others to different spots on the floor. It's a defensive intensity. Being a great rim protector, being able to get into passing lanes. So with her versatility, and then of course you add that with a 2-time MVP in Asia Wilson, you add that with Jackie Young, who's having a really great year, Chelsea Gray's an All-Star as well, Kelsey Plum as well. Um, I mean, to me, it's like with that starting five, you can't really beat that. Now, you could possibly make an argument that New York's second unit is possibly better, especially with the emergence of a player like Marine Johannes, and she's been just incredible. But like that starting five, and then you can implement that with other lineups as well. Like you could play Asia with a Kia Stokes, and you could put in Alicia, as a wing defender. So when you add that, of course, with that starting five, I feel like that's just like so unbeatable. So that's really my big takeaway from the game. Kudos to Vegas. They definitely took advantage. I love what Kelsey Plum. I love the energy I love the energy that Kelsey Plum brought in the first half. With her ability to attack the basket and find driving lanes. Chelsea Gray had a really efficient night from three. Asia was able to get a double-double, I believe, as well. I think Candace had like 15 as well, I want to say, in that contest.
Yeah,
so
that stat sheet, that starting lineup top to bottom was pristine.
Exactly. And that's the thing, too, about Candace is that her scoring isn't necessarily like needed for this team, but if you add it, like if she can give you like a 12 to 15, like that's just gonna make them even more dangerous, which is just crazy to me. But give kudos to Vegas. New York, I feel like it was mostly Stewie having to lead the charge offensively. I feel like she didn't really get a lot of production from others. Benaja Laney only had 3 points. I think she only shot like 1 of 5 or 1 of 6. Sabrina only has 6 points as well. I know Jacquel had 13 points in that contest, but to me, I guess the impact wasn't really felt. So to me, it was almost nearly like a one man show offensively for Breanna Stewart. So I feel like whenever these two teams do meet up again, which I think is probably about like another month or maybe less than a month, they're definitely going to need like offensive production from just about everybody. So that's definitely one thing as well. Turnovers as well, definitely I think killed New York as well. So I mean, at the end of the day, they're gonna look at this game. Whenever it is time to play them again, they're gonna look at all the mistakes. And with Sandy Brondello, I think that she's a really good coach. I feel like she's gonna be able to make those adjustments necessary.
Yeah.
However, are those adjustments going to be enough to beat a team like this? And I think that's the biggest question that we have to ask ourselves.
Well, and so I think the way you led off with that, Niche, and great breakdown of that game, because that the Aces squad is going to be tough to beat with the pieces that they've brought in and that they kept around from last year's championship run. But right off the bat, like, I agree with you. I don't think New York really stacks up with this Aces squad. And so when I look at it, I start to question. I guess some egos are going to have to be put in check, because I don't know that starting lineup is the best lineup just in terms of what each player brings to the table. You're missing a lot of perimeter defense, a little bit of perimeter threat when Sabrina isn't going off, with Courtney Vandersloot out there. So maybe you have to rework that lineup. I'm curious what you think that looks like. But, like, for me, that's going to really test the egos of some all-world players in Courtney Vandersloot, Sabrina Ionescu, Benaja Laney, even Jonquel Jones playing a little bit less here and there. But I'm saying players like Taylor Thornton stepping up into the main lineup for New York. A closing lineup. Marine Johannes, I think, for sure. And that gets tough when you've got Marine and Courtney and Sabrina, none of which are defensive stoppers by any means. So I don't know. What do you think that maybe that best lineup looks like? Maybe not a replacement of the starting lineup with the 5 All-Stars, but maybe the closing lineup.
I think the closing lineup. I think when you talk about having defensive pressure, I think you have to implement a player like Kayla Thornton. You know,
Mm.
she's a scrapper. She's gonna take on that challenge of defending. You know, just about anybody on the floor. So I think she's definitely important. The question is that is Sandy gonna? I mean, I possibly against the Aces you can run kind of a smaller lineup where you put Stewie at the 5, and Stewie's probably still guarding Asia or Candace, whoever. And even with Kayla Thornton, with her size, she can. Honestly, you could possibly put Kayla on Asia. I don't know if she's gonna succeed more times tonight, but I feel like with her size and her competitive edge, she may make things difficult. But I think you're spot on. I think with Sabrina and Courtney, they're not really your like your players that you're gonna want to lock down defensively, and I think that can be an issue for New York. So
Mm.
if you can possibly find a way to implement Kayla Thornton into that closing lineup, who is going to set the tone on the defensive end, bring that energy. I think that'll probably be needed for New York.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, I do want Marine Johannes to be in a closing lineup. I think her 2-man game with Stewie is so much fun. Then I think you can probably only go with.
So let me ask you this: could you possibly see a closing backcourt of Sabrina and Marie Johannes, and then possibly put Sloop to the bench, possibly?
So that's where I was about to go because last year I was making the calls for uh, Marine and Sabrina to start together. Obviously, that doesn't bring a lot of backcourt or perimeter defense, but and that's where I'm kind of in between with Marine going with Sabrina or Marine going with Sloot. The Sloot, I mean, we saw it in the Washington game, can be so clutch and really was playing well against Las Vegas, not contributing in maybe the scoring way, but was setting up Stewie as best as they could with the Aces defense running all around. So maybe even Sabrina sliding down to the bench for some of those closing lineups. You're still going to need her, of course, because she is one of the best players
Right.
in the world. But I do, and last year, Nick, too, I was calling for Marine Johannes potentially as a Sue Bird replacement over in Seattle in the offseason, like to go pair with Bree Stewart. Obviously, things wound up way different but I love their 2-man game. I want those two out there. I want one of the guards, Kayla Thornton, and maybe Laney, maybe John Quell, maybe. I mean,
That's tough though because Kayla doesn't to me. Kayla Thornton is obviously not the offensive player that these other players are. So I guess that's kind of where it does get tricky. But when you're talking about who you need to be a stopper defensively, she's going to be one of those players that you're going to have to put in that closing lineup for New York.
and she can space it at the bare minimum, and you need players like that in each lineup.
Right.
But so I mean that definitely makes it tough looking at it. I'm gonna whisper this here, but do you regret maybe not having D.D. Richards at this point with the perimeter defense?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that. Yeah. Especially with what Didi brings to the table. I mean, definitely defensively. Um,
I'm shocked she hasn't been
I
picked
don't know.
up
She
yet.
makes. Yeah. No. Honestly, if I'm New York, might not pick her back up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if they have the cap space or if they have the roster spot for it, but if she's available, I would definitely say go after her. But yeah, I definitely do think that they are missing her presence defensively because even last year, honestly, she got a lot of good stops, honestly. So it's kind of surprising to see her not being on a roster, especially with what she brings to the table. But man, somebody pick her up. If you're in New York, you would definitely love to have somebody of her caliber on that end.
Yeah, I mean I don't. You probably regret dropping her in the offseason. Hanshu, I think, is someone who I think a lot of teams could benefit from trading for. Maybe you go and pick up a perimeter defender that way. But with pairing Hanshu with maybe another asset to go bring in some perimeter defense. But that just gets tricky when you look at it in the full scope of things for New York. Maybe Jocelyn Willoughby gets some more time as a defender. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where New York goes as they continue to evolve. It's still very young in the season. That game against Las Vegas was not everything, but for right now, it does look like the Aces are a much better team. As we wrap up, Nick, we've kind of jumped all over the place here, but we wrap up our All Star teams. You with Team Wilson, your starting lineup. You went with Chelsea Gray, Arike Ogunbowale, Aja Wilson, obviously, Aaliyah Boston, and then Satu Sabali as the three. And then off your bench, you've got Dewana Bonner, Nafisa Collier, Alicia Gray, Sabrina Ionescu, Cheyenne Parker, and Courtney Vandersloot. And for me, I run it out there with obviously Bree Stewart, but I've got Jewel Lloyd running the point. I've got Jackie Yun as my two, Bree Stewart at the three, Netta at the four, and BG at the five. So a lot of bigs in that starting lineup for me. And then off my bench, I run it with Talia Topper, Elena Deladon, Ezzy Madbador, Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Plum. I got both the Kelseys and Alyssa Thomas. And so I just will start with the starting lineups. How do you think those teams fare against each other?
It's crazy because both of these teams are really good, honestly.
As they should be.
I think maybe with me, yeah. Honestly, I will say I think the difference is, I mean, I think you do have a bigger front court, you could say, than me, because I mean you do have NECA, you have Stewie, and then of course you have Brittany Griner. But I mean, but you do have spacing. You do have spacing at the same time as well. So I mean, it is a bigger lineup, but it's not like anybody's gonna clog the lane or anything. So that's definitely good there. Um, Man, that matchup possibly between NECA and Satu is interesting. I want to see if
Huh.
NECA will be able to really contain her, honestly. Because I mean, Satu is just really versatile with the basketball. She's able to score, pass, just do about everything. So I'm very interested to see how what tactics NECA could possibly bring up. That could possibly slow her down.
I think
And then of course, obviously the one matchup that we're probably looking forward to is Asia versus Stewie. I think that's the one that everyone's going to look forward to. And on top of that, Arike
and
and Jewel
Jewel,
as well.
yes.
Like I mentioned before, we got the. I mean, I think Arike had like 41, Jewel had like 38 or 39 in that game. So we might be able to see part two of that. Who knows?
So I think I'm putting Netta over there on Asia Wilson for you, and I'm putting Bree Stewart on Satu Savoy. I think
Honestly, that works. That actually does work.
I am a little concerned with the spacing, but I think Bree Stewart figures it out with BG down low, and Netta obviously has run high low for her whole career. So I think we're figuring that out. The guard
Well,
matchups.
honestly, BG can space as well.
It's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know she likes to and has dominant around the paint, at least in her return
Exactly.
for sure. But okay, I'll take that. And then off the bench, I mean, I bring some shooting in both the Kelseys, Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Plum, Elena Deladon. And then I think Alyssa Thomas off my bench really serves as a change of pace to go with.
Yeah, that's gonna be a nightmare for me. It's guarding Alyssa Thomas. Definitely gonna be a nightmare.
Says I can sub Alyssa Thomas or Talia Topper into my main five and have some real success, I think.
So I'm wondering who I would put on Alyssa. I don't know if it will be Cheyenne. I don't know if it would be Nafisa. I don't know if Nafisa has the quickness to be able to slow her down, especially when she's running downhill.
Nafisa
Honestly,
seems
I'll be
like a
real.
good
Nobody.
guess.
Yeah, she probably will. But honestly, I'll be real. Nobody can really stop Alyssa when she's running downhill and running the break. Honestly, I mean that's the recipe for disaster for any defender. But um, as far as for the guards, I would love honestly an Alicia Kelsey matchup, or maybe Alicia and Kelsey Plum matchup. That could possibly
Yeah.
be very interesting. Seeing them go back and forth. Who knows? But I'm honestly, I think this game Alicia's gonna show us who she really is as a scorer. I think she's really gonna come through, in this All Star game.
Yeah, we are looking forward to this All Star game. I'm gonna ask you real quick, Nick, before we get into some of those details. Who's winning out of your team versus my team out here?
I'm gonna stay confident in my team. I mean, I'll be honest, your team is really good. I think you have a lot of versatility on your team, but I'm gonna trust in the versatility, the spacing, in the perimeter scoring of my team, that can possibly help them pull through, and of course the rebounding too in the perimeter defense and interior defense. So
I love
I'm
it.
gonna have some confidence in my team that my team can come out on top.
I will take it. I'm feeling pretty good about my team too. So we'll run with that. The All-Star selection with Asia and Stewie. That is on Saturday, July 8th at 1 p.m. And then, of course, the All-Star weekend. It's coming up here really soon. But it's going to be played at Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas at 8:30 Eastern. And I believe that's on the 15th. That's Sunday.
Yes, the 15th.
Oh, no, that's
I think that's
Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But we're looking forward to that with 2 full days with the WNBA Starry 3-point contest and the Kia WNBA Skills Challenge, which comes on Friday the 14th. So, I mean, I'm not going to All-Star Weekend. I wish I was. Nick, how are you planning to enjoy the festivities?
I'll probably just be at the house, just watching it from my TV. Yeah, I won't actually be there physically. Unfortunately, I won't be able to. But maybe one day I'll be able to head out there.
Amen. Yeah, I mean, that and Summer League coming soon on the NBA side, it would be a fun atmosphere, to say the least, over there. Nick, thank you so much for...
That's like heaven for like hoop fans.
Like, that's the career goal at some point here soon. But
Yes.
you know what, Nick, thank you so much for joining me here. We worked on our personal All-Star squads, and we've got our teams. We're ready to see the teams face off in the All-Star game. I had a lot of fun with this episode with you.
No, it was really good, man. Once again, thank you for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure to talk WNBA, man. I'm all like super happy with where this league is going. You know, the growth of it, man. And I just want to be a contributing factor in helping the game grow if I can, man. So I'm definitely happy to be on.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, go check out everything Nick does. He's on Twitter at NickAndreATR, and his podcast M&C Hoops. Go check him out.
See those, baby.
I love it. All right, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, make sure to follow and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram at APBShow, and follow me at the AC Willett 22. Thank you so much for tuning in for a pro basketball show. I am Andrew Willett.